With the ring cleared, the next combatants found their way to the middle, avoiding the puddles of blood as they did so. First, a man standing just over 5.5 feet tall. At his side, a sword sat in a straight sheath, a strangely ornate hilt stretching from it. A red hakama covered his legs, as a pair of gaita sandals pressed into the dust. His white kimono was open to reveal his toned chest and trained hands. His black hair was held back by a comb into a ponytail, with a necklace of large beads resting around his neck.
My opponent is a monkey.
Indeed, his opponent was a monkey. Standing just over 4 feet tall, a golden-furred monkey looked up at him. He bore a headband with 2 long crimson feathers stretching from it that reached far beyond and touched the ground. A simple blue kipao covered his torso, while a pair of baggy white trousers rested beneath. A tiger skin wrapped around his waist as a black staff in his hand tapped against the ground.
Hey, I'm not just any monkey. I'm Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, the great sage equal to heaven.
Equal to heaven? You? Don't make me laugh.
Like a bolt of lightning, he was upon the monkey, blade drawn and ready to strike. The sword swing carved down and struck the ring in a blinding flash, cutting through the monkey's visage in the process. Wukong appeared above the point of impact, arms folded over his chest and a smile crossing his face.
I wasn't trying to, but this is a tournament, so I guess I'm gonna have to beat ya.
Wukong commented, spinning the staff in his hand, readying for a strike against Susano'o. The storm god whipped around it easily and traced along its edge with the Tosca blade in his hand. Sparks ground outward and thunder boomed alongside it, the blade's tip shooting for the monkey's face.
That is not going to happen.
Lightning followed the slash, throwing the primate from his position and sending him rocketing across the arena. His back struck the ground first, and then he continued to skip like a rag doll. Dust and debris shooting and breaking as his body collided with the far end of the arena.
You are battling against a god, monkey.
As soon as those words left Susano'o's mouth, the golden butt of the staff came into view. Susano'o rolled out of the way in surprise, his chestnut-hued eyes tracing down it to find the source, which was rapidly approaching.
I know that. Trust me.
Wukong shouted, driving his right foot towards Susano'o's face as the golden-hooped rod returned to its staff form. Susano'o's surprise did not change as the foot met his face. The air boomed from the collision and the god was sent hurtling backward in a concussive blow. Dust and debris took to the air with him as the arena seemed to jostle from the strength of the attack. Susano'o threw his arms out to the side, halting his movement with flight.
What an underhanded...
Before he could finish, Monkey was coming again with another attack, this one from his staff. It met the Tosca blade and sent forth a ring of air. The ring was so great that despite their elevation, it carved into the arena floor and blew far above the arena's top, the two standing equals across the divide of force, eyes interlocking. From there they blinked away, a trail of lightning racing behind them, the first meeting with a cacophonous blast that shattered the clouds overhead. Then came more collisions, highlighted by sparks and trails of lightning, blade meeting staff in violent and unrelenting display. Those below bore witness to the static shower as it rained down, giving no true location to either of the combatants. That was until Monkey was sent careening into the ring, a bolt of lightning shooting into his golden-hooped staff. His back struck the middle of the ring, and the lightning seemed to only increase in size. A crater formed from the sheer amount of electricity pouring into the monkey's body. Susano'o floated above the lightning strike, his blade pointing to the sky above as menacing winds ripped around his frame.
Come, Storm's Wrath, descend!
Susano'o roared and called forth a massive bolt of lightning, the clear blue sky dulling to pitch black in comparison to its brightness. Monkey pulled himself up from the crater in time for the great lightning bolt to strike him down. It crashed over his lithe frame and split the ring in several places. Outlined within the strike, Monkey stood hunched over, his voice drowned by the sheer sound raining around him. Then, Wukong's frame dropped as the full force of the heavenly lightning faded past him into the ring.
And that is the end of that.
Susanoo lowered his raised blade to a defensive stance beside him. In reply to his words, Sun Wukong was picking himself up. His golden fur was charred in places, and streaks of discharge poured from him to the ground. But he was otherwise unharmed, and looking upward with a chuckle.
Lightning, huh? Yeah, I was warned about that when I first became an immortal. But that was a long time ago.
Immortal? That just means that I can't kill you, which is fine by me. I just have to beat you into submission.
It was after those words lightning ripped down, carrying Susanoo towards his foe.
You can certainly try.
Sun Wukong grinned, shooting up to meet the god. The compliant hooped staff swung out and met the Tosca blade, cracking the air into a coil of thunder. Then Monkey whipped around and brought the butt of the staff upward, towards Susanoo's chin. It struck and the god was sent flying backwards, a burst shattering the air. Monkey, however, pounced on the opportunity. The staff he carried was jabbed out and quickly struck Susanoo in the stomach. Then it was drawn free and swung around again, cracking the god in the side of the head. Susanoo would have trailed away had Monkey not brought the staff around to blast him across the head again. Another thunderous crack followed from that, and Wukong continued to press on. The staff was spun around into the back of Susanoo's legs before being sent careening into his exposed chest. The flurry finished with Monkey twirling the staff around above his head, the first blow striking Susanoo across the face, before the second hammered into his stomach. The third drove into the god's back, while the fourth drove into the side of his legs, and the final, fifth part of the barrage pressed into Susanoo's stomach, hammering him to the ground. This was amplified as Monkey yelled,
"Extend!"
sending the staff shooting straight down. As it descended with rapid speed, its width expanded to over a dozen yards in diameter, the air around it whipping by with such force it picked up debris from the arena and sent it skyward. The collision with the ground forced Susanoo into a crater before completely consuming him beneath the immense weight of the staff. The arena cracked and buckled around it. Satisfied with the collision, Monkey attempted to call back the hooped staff, but found it stuck in place.
All right.
He tried again, but yet again it did not shrink.
Huh? Say what now?
Then it started moving, being lifted upward from below. Lightning raced up from the bottom in the process of this elevation, the crater far below beginning to glow with static discharge that popped and whizzed by.
Don't tell me you thought that was enough to beat me.
Susanoo spoke, continuing to heft the staff into the air while raising himself. Lightning raced across his enraged frame, while his teeth ground together furiously.
Well, now that you mention it, no.
Sun Wukong grinned, hopping on top of the staff as Susanoo continued to fly up. It was here the mischievous Monkey King shouted,
72 earthly transformations!
His bodily suddenly warping and changing. In his place atop the pillar-like hoop staff, an elephant appeared, the staff being pressed down by the sudden great weight. Susanoo buckled slightly from the momentary pressure difference before continuing upward, the staff now floating above the lip of the crater he was contained in, and Susanoo nearly level with the arena floor.
This weight, this weight is nothing.
Alrighty then. If that didn't work...
Monkey popped back into his normal form and grabbed 2 golden hairs from the top of his head.
How about this?
He rubbed them together. In a puff of smoke, 2 more Monkey Kings appeared, floating off to the sides of the original and looking at each other before nodding.
Alright, let's go teach him a lesson!
All 3 took forward in unison. They spiraled down the great staff as Susanoo planted his feet against the arena floor, its weight still resting upon his palm.
There are 3 of you now?
He growled as the first fist came his way. It smashed into his face, and the staff was sent flying into the air.
There we go!
All 3 said together before continuing their assault. The second Monkey King whipped around from behind with a spinning kick that caught the back of the god's head. He smashed forward into the other 2 Monkey Kings, who delivered tandem kicks to the face. Susano'o boomed across the crater he had just escaped from, his feet finding purchase on the dusty floor to prevent an uncontrollable tumble. His eyes looked up and all three monkeys were upon him again, unloading with a series of punches and kicks. He weaved through them barely, his arms and legs working overtime to deflect the barrage that was coming his way. Each overpowered strike nearly threw him off balance, while he attempted to find an opening for a counterattack. It did not seem like it was coming, however, as a palm strike to the chest flung his defensive into disarray and allowed the other two monkeys to come in. The first delivered a kick to the face, which then acted as a springboard that sent that monkey flying into the air. The second duplicate of the Monkey King in that same moment delivered a hooking overhead kick that cut into Susano'o's stomach, doubling him over, just in time for the airborne monkey to come down with the hooped staff. It bounced off of Susano'o's forehead, thrusting the storm god straight down into the ground. The dusty arena floor crumbled like cheap tissue and bent about him in another crater, several feet deep and equally wide. The kami was left laying with arms flailing out to the side and his eyes staring at the sky overhead.
You finished yet?
Monkey asked, his two duplicates also looking over the crater to the god that was at the bottom.
Don't ask such arrogant questions, monkey.
Susano'o sat up and ground his teeth together. His body began to spark with electricity as he pulled to his feet, the immortal great sage equal to heaven watching him as he did so. The blue skies overhead turned pitch black, storm clouds spinning out from over the horizon and beyond. Thunder pealed as Susano'o flew from the crater's bottom and beyond the lip to several feet above the Monkey Kings.
I am Susano'o, the god of storms, and I refuse to allow this farce to continue.
His right hand arced over and the sky split, sending a cascade of lightning down upon the arena. Bolts tore in a thunderous cage of force. The ground shattered and the marble facade of the arena crumbled beneath the impact. These jagged lightning blades carved about the ground and toward the Monkey Kings, who looked at one another in surprise. The two summoned from Hare were suddenly smote, bursting into dust as the lightning carved into them. The real Wukong looked at Susano'o and smiled, readying the hooped staff as the lightning intended for him struck. It consumed the primate, driving him to a knee with its intensity, yet it failed to smite him. His body arched over from the concussive blast of lightning, but it failed to collapse to the ground.
Just quit, monkey.
The Tosca at Susano'o's side swiped out, and a cyclone appeared in the arena. It was so large that it eclipsed the ring, tearing high into the dark clouds overhead and outward far beyond them. Within, Sun Wukong was drawn up, body tossed about like a leaf in the great strength of the storm. Lightning ripped through, the storm's winds targeting the Monkey King inside. From all angles, great flashes of yellow and even blue striking about and disappearing, all targeting and colliding with the Monkey King within. As his foe was tossed about, Susano'o readied his staff once more, each flash of lightning reflecting off its gleaming edge, as Sun Wukong was tossed about within the storm. Each passing second, building anticipation to a single strike, each bolt building and building in explosiveness, preparing for Susano'o's attack. Then it came. Susano'o, in the form of lightning, split through the great cyclone he had made and let loose a slashing of his fullest potential. The dark clouds overhead were split cleanly in two, revealing a trail of sunlight. The brilliant cyclone's winds were ripped apart as well, their remnants spinning off to the sides of the arena harmlessly. The same could not be said for the arena itself, however. The wall of the great Colosseum that sat behind Monkey, and the direction of the strike, bore a 15-foot wide cut that continued outward along the paradise of green grass and foliage that it sat upon. Burst of lightning shot between the two sides of the arena, as if charged by the force of the attack.
This is over.
Susano'o spoke, looking at Sun Wukong, who was suspended in the air, the sword having passed clean through him. The Monkey King's body was split in two, his head and the right side being severed from the left, both of which began to fall. Blood spiraled out, each droplet burning away in the charge of electricity that surged through the air. No noise escaped the Monkey King's mouth, as his eyes were like pearls of glass, frozen in awe as he descended towards the floor. Upon contact, the two halves bounced and lay apart, the blood within spilling out into the dust that covered the floor. Silence hung for a moment, as the sword was sheathed again.
Equal to heaven, how arrogant.
Okay. Now things are interesting. That one actually hurt.
You pieced yourself back together.
Yep. I'm good as new.
Monkey patted himself on the shoulder where the slash had been, sending soot and other debris aside. Lightning struck down in front of the Monkey King, Susano'o slicing directly for his neck.
It looks like I'll need to try harder then.
Go for it!
The slash met the compliant Hu's staff, lightning arcing from it, tearing away at the ground before disappearing. The Monkey King and the God of the Storm locked eyes again, neither willing to back down. The hoop staff was tipped down and Monkey pole vaulted with it, driving his left foot into the Storm God's face. Susano'o shot back from the impact, trails of dust gathering in the wind as he soared across the arena. His body hammered against the back marble wall. Monkey was back upon him the same moment, a right hand that shook the arena following into Susano'o's chin. The wall was torn apart by the blow, and Susano'o was sent shooting up it, his body cartwheeling about uncontrollably. Monkey's left and right feet switched apart, and he spiraled upward, blazing away with a glorious glow. Susano'o looked down and saw Monkey coming, but he could not raise a defense. A punch faster than lightning drilled into his stomach. His mouth gaped open, and his black hair waved about crazily in the tumult of force. The follow-up left that raced into his cheek hurled the god toward the arena below. The deity struck and bounced, dust blowing about his body. Monkey hit the ground the same moment he did, swinging around with a staff strike that hooked in the deity's chin. Once more the storm god was skyward, his head spinning alongside the world about him. Monkey placed the staff behind his back and shot up after Susano'o. Tracing a lightning bolt, Susano'o tried to move aside, only to be hammered into by the staff, his body folded over and being thrust higher. Monkey switched his grasp on the staff and swung it, all the while causing its size to grow. When the compliant hoop staff reached him, it carved down into Susano'o in the form of a massive iron pillar. The air did not keep up. Instead, it shattered. The thunderclap that followed, accenting the speed at which the deity hammered face first into the ring below. Susano'o whacked against the ground and rebounded back from the strike, his head arching back and his mouth agape, a stare glazing over his eyes as they stared up at the Monkey King, who was coming down for another attack.
Yeah!
Monkey roared, the massive iron pillar crashing down with his strike. It hammered atop Susano'o's head and then traced across the arena. The dusty floor buckled into a trench beneath it, and another of the arena's walls was smashed through. Chips of marble were sent flying through the air as the blow reached its end point. The great staff was bowing in the middle, as if where it had hit was still elevated against it. Indeed, it was. As the dust cleared, it crackled with lightning.
You're still standing.
I'm not made out of glass.
Susano'o replied, looking at Monkey, and his right hand pushing the staff upward. Susano'o's kimono was torn free, revealing the toned body of a long-trained warrior. Lightning trailed behind the god, his speed closing the distance instantly with a swing of his sword. Monkey, though, seemed to disappear from the intended strike, flickering away as if he had never been there in the first place. The slice carved away at the ground, and Susano'o turned, a sound catching his ear, the hoop staff winging for the back of his head. The staff met Susano'o's weapon with a great clashing sound, sparks flying as it ground off the Tosca blade and missed its mark. The pair in that shower of sparks then vanished yet again, trading strikes with the weapon straight upward. It was a martial display, if anyone could see it, that was. Staff met sword in a swift succession, each blow evenly matched as they traced through the sky. Then a parting wind blew them away from one another, only for a brief second. Their barrage of attacks was the only thing one could track them by. Impacts that lit the air with thunder and lightning momentarily before splitting in the winds that soon followed. In their charge at this speed, neither seemed to take the edge, pairing back and forth on equal footing. The hoop staff grew to its most massive size after they split away again, and it was swung at Susano'o, who was the size of a gnat in comparison. Yet it did not seem to hit, as a moment later it and Monkey were launched beyond the arena's field of view, lightning following them through the air. Susano'o pressed down from above, carving with the edge of his sword a most fierce lightning bolt. Monkey, however, met the blade with his hand, sparks and lightning rocketing out in a star in every direction. Yet it failed to harm the Monkey King. Monkey, however, returned the blow with a kick that passed through his foe, who vanished from sight yet again. The Monkey King, however, looked to his right and vanished as well, tracking his foe certainly. A boom followed, and Susano'o was sent rocketing back to the arena floor. His frame was coated in lightning and a cushion of air. Monkey's flickering frame floating just briefly above before vanishing again. Over the ring and just before meeting it, Susano'o straightened and flipped to a vertical base. Thunder boomed around him and lightning traced his feet as they floated just inches above the dusty floor.
Attacking from behind, are you?
Susano'o shouted, his blade swinging around and meeting Monkey just as he appeared. The sword embedded in Sun Wukong's neck, cutting through it cleanly. The monkey there hovered and gasped for a moment, eyes rolling back in his head, before he disappeared in a cloud of smoke.
What?
Got you again.
Susano'o turned, seeing the real Monkey King appearing there with staff in hand, where it was jabbed forward. The taunt came, and then the impact, the staff doubling the god over and shooting him across the arena.
Gah! Do not mock me!
Look, I'm not. Trust me. You're the best fight I've had in a long time. But I think it's time to wrap this up.
Is that right? You and I agree on something.
Yeah.
Susano'o lowered to a crouch, readying the Tosca blade for a moment to pound. Monkey nodded, the staff in his hand also sitting at the ready. Susano'o rocketed forward, outspeeding the very lightning he flung. His body loomed like a specter above the Monkey King, the edge of his sword racing down with the force of a raging storm. For his part, Sun Wukong was replying in kind, the compliant staff being swung around on the other side, aiming for Susano'o's head, the heft of the metal blurring in several places at once as it approached. The edge of the Tosca blade embedded itself in Sun Wukong's neck for a fraction of a second before disappearing through it. Blood shot out in an arc that covered the dusty floor as the severed head flipped through the air surrounded by lightning. In reply, the compliant staff caught Susano'o in the cheek and drove him to the ground. From the impact, the ground cratered with such force that the pillars of the arena shook and the very sky seemed to quake. Sun Wukong's head fell and bounced away as his body slumped forward and dropped to its knees. Susano'o dropped the Tosca blade. In the scant few seconds that followed, Susano'o did not even flinch. His body stiffened in unconsciousness against the arena floor. Arms sprawled out to the side without a hint of movement. Contrarily, the bloody stump where Sun Wukong's head had been began to twist and contort, and sure enough, the Monkey King sprouted another head. This one turned in admiration towards the god he had been facing.
I told you, I wasn't joking. It's not every day you make a Buddha sweat. Well done, Susano'o.
Sun Wukong acknowledged his foe while standing up, taking a bow at the end. Then he walked toward his terrace and briefly looked over at the Archangel Michael. Michael's gaze met his own. A silent word filled the air between them, fading when Sun Wukong returned to his pavilion. The victor